Back on MITech TV. And we have back once again with us Gary Erickson from Executive Search Partners. Now, actually a month ago, I think, he asked for people to send in their resumes and he would critique them on air. Now, I don't know whether that actually transpired, but he's ready to critique them anyway or tell you how you should be crafting your resume if you're going for a C-level job. Right, Gary?
That's right.
So go ahead. I know you want to share your screen and because you've got a PowerPoint you want to share, so feel free to do so. All right, so now Gary is sharing his PowerPoint on how resume makeover. So take it away, Gary.
Good morning, Mike. How are you? Morning, afternoon again. I did it for the second time. Whatever. You had suggested a while ago that maybe I could share with some of the people I work with, and you would also publicize the fact that I would do a free resume review for people, and we sent out an email on this. And what I thought I would do today is I would take people through the process by which I would show people how to do a resume. So I've got the permission from somebody to take their resume, hide the heck out of it, and show you what I would do.
Okay.
All right, fire away.
All right. So the first thing we've got is I'm just showing what is probably a typical resume. This is actually a pretty good resume the way it is. It's got I don't know if my mouse is showable there, but it's got a profile at the top. It's got something called core competencies, which I see a lot of people put in their resume. I'll explain why I think they do that. And then we get into professional experience. What I'd like to do is take each of these sections and dissect them and tell you what Executive Search Partners recommends on a resume based upon the experience we've had in presenting lots of resumes to lots of clients. So let's take the first section. All right. This is what's on that resume. It's got the first name and the last name. It's got good information at the top about the person, and that information should be on every page. And then people typically put in a profile. In this one, I'll tell you what I would do to improve it by showing you the next screen. The first thing I would do is I would eliminate the section called Visionary Technological Leader Driving Organizational Excellence and Innovation. That's hyperbole. And the first question any good interviewer will ask is, oh, really? Tell me why you're a visionary. Give me an example of where you've done something that's visionary that other people haven't thought of. And usually you can't defend that. So what we've suggested people do is eliminate that kind of hyperbole and just focus very much on specifics. So this one, Chief Information Officer, 25 years of experience. And then we've added global manufacturing companies because we want to be specific as much as we can about the industry, and then ranging in size, in this case, from $4 billion to $10 billion. And at the very end of this, we ask and suggest that people put in some details. I mean, how big is the organization you managed, and what is the kind of budget you've had for people? So going from sort of generic to specific in your profile at the top is a good enhancement, because the audience reading your resume can garner more about you in this short paragraph than they could from the previous one. The second thing that people put in there, and a lot of times, is this section they call core competencies or skills. And a lot of people do that because they think bots screen resumes. I only know of one company where they said bots screen resumes for senior executives, and I told them, I said, I think you're losing good resumes of people because the bots don't do a very good job of screening resumes. So what we're suggesting is that since most of the time the bots aren't screening your resumes, eliminate this section, but replace it with a different section, which we're calling the, I meant this, it's unnecessary. So we're replacing it with an in-resume cover letter. Instead of generic things about your background, be very specific about the job you're applying for. So let's say this person is applying for the job of a position of a CIO of a global manufacturing company. All right. So what do people want to know? Imagine who the audience is for this. Is who's the hiring manager? In a lot of cases, it's going to be the chief information officer or the president of the company, or maybe in some cases, unfortunately, the chief financial officer, for the person who's the head of IT. All right. What do they want to know? Well, they want to know that you've been a CIO. That's the first dot point. They want to know that you've utilized technologies to improve the costs and efficiency and market share and sales of the company that you're working for. Give some examples about how you applied technology. And I've got a couple of examples here. Like, for example, Mike, you've done a lot of work on manufacturing 4.0. All right. They created
Indeed.
a lot of manufacturing. Yeah. It created a lot of manufacturing 4.0 initiatives, which today, in this particular example, have reduced costs by 10%, improved quality of the products by 18%, and increased manufacturing efficiency by 14%. That's an impressive set of numbers. And if I'm the president of a company, that's the kind of person I want to hire for my senior IT executive. And then maybe the last one, talk about how you reduce the cost of IT operations by doing a number of things related to the organization that you're responsible for. Any thoughts or comments so far on the in-resume cover letter or the first section?
Well, what's interesting to me, Gary, is that I used to, in my media days, I would decode news releases for a living, and now I write news releases for a living a lot. And what I always tried to strip out of news releases, and what I try to avoid in the ones that I set out, is exactly that kind of hyperbole that you talked about earlier. And also I try to avoid value judgments for which you would have to provide evidence, and that either there's no evidence for, or that providing that evidence would be a digression, a sideshow, not the main thing we're talking about here. So yeah, just straightforward. Here's what happened. Just the facts, ma'am. It looks like a really good idea for a resume too, as well as a news release.
Yep. And thank you. And this section here, which we're calling the in-resume cover letter, a lot of people, when you apply online or you apply through a recruiter, even if you have a friend send your resume to somebody, people are going to want to read the first page of your resume, or they're going to read the first page of the resume. If they don't see the fit, they're going to throw it aside, say, well, this person's not a fit. So doing this in-resume cover letter, where you specifically thought about how my background will fit the requirements of the position, is I think, in fact, it is very powerful. We use this technique when we present resumes to our clients. The next section that we've got on here, the person has this section called professional experience. Looks pretty good. Company name, the title, right? And then go right into some accomplishments. I'm going to point out some of the things that I would do differently on here. First off, I would put right under the company name, if you go backward, it's ABC Company. If I go forward, I would say, describe the company. What are the products they in, the sales, locations, employees? Even somebody as big as Ford Motor Company, how many people know how big Ford Motor Company is, and how many, different businesses is Ford in, besides just, designing and shipping automobiles? I do the same thing under the title. Describe your position. What were your responsibilities? Were you responsible for all information technology or a segment of it? What was the size of your staff? What was the budget in the particular area that you're responsible for? And then the final thing, and this is the most important part of the resume, is list your accomplishments in a way that will resonate with the people who are going to hire for you. So just like I showed earlier in the in-resume cover letter, some of the examples of things that you've done, this is where you also highlight your accomplishments. And we like them in the PAR format. The PAR format is starting with, what was the problem you're trying to solve? What actions did you take or lead? And what measurable results did you get? And I've written an example here. Let's say it's a manufacturing example. The problem is manufacturing costs are probably too high and quality maybe is too low. So what you're trying to do is increase manufacturing quality and reduce costs. So what this CIO did was create a manufacturing 4.0 initiatives. including flexible machining centers, Internet of Things sensors, and just-in-time processes, where they ended up reducing cost by 10%, excuse me, reducing quality by improving quality by 18%, and increasing manufacturing effectiveness by 14%. That's a wonderful par. If you can tell the president of the company you've done that. Now they might delve into tell me more about what you did, which is great. Now you caught their attention. Now they're very interested in talking to you about how you went about doing it. And then the one other final thing that I didn't point out is I always like to see at the end of a resume, there's a section on education and qualifications. In this particular case, the person didn't have anything about what they did in terms of accomplishments, or were they involved in sports? Did they have a high GPA? Did they have any leadership positions? They also didn't have any community activities or any personal interests. This sort of adds some depth to your resume. So imagine if you're reading the resume about somebody, you say they're pretty good, you'd like to know more about them as a person. And this section here is one that gives some depth to that particular resume. Finally, here, I'm going to just go back and forth. Here's the original resume. All right. Here's the final resume. In addition to putting in the in resume cover letter section near the top, I've increased some of the font sizes to highlight the sections. I've dot pointed it a little better than the person who was doing it before. There's some formatting examples that we use when we do the in resume cover letter. So that's my my resume makeover. And any questions about that, either one of you, or any suggestions or any thoughts?
Matt?
Well, I think basically I thought the revised one looked great and packed more information into the space of the first page anyway. And it is interesting that we talk about cover letters. We've talked about cover letters a whole bunch of times, and that nobody reads one, but you boiled it down to like 4 bullet points and put it on the resume instead. That's probably a better option, right?
Yeah, since people only read the resume, and the resume is the only thing that usually survives when somebody forwards it to somebody, it's always good to have something very specific here that will catch the eye of the people reviewing your resume. I said I'd be very happy to review anybody's resume at a senior level that forwards it to me. I've got some suggestions for them. We have a sample resume. We've got a document called 12 Steps for a Highly Successful Job Search that not only talks about how to go about doing the job search, but it talks about crafting the PARs that I talked about in here. It talks about the in resume cover letter. And then also talks about how you can use those PARs when you're interviewing with people.
All right. And so the best way to reach you then is give your email address and website one more time.
The website is execsearchpartners.com. And my email is Erickson, GERICKSON @execsearchpartners.com.